Hello, thanks for clicking on to part 4 of socket demo, we'll call it that. Basically, we're trying to create a chat application. This was only supposed to be a demo. It's taking way more videos than I thought it was going to be, but that's because I am trying to really make sure I understand this. And I think we got the biggest sense of understanding last video. So let's see if we can put that together and really get some work done today. So, okay, so where are we at right now? We're in the main. So let's try to use this really convenient thing that we started using yesterday, and we're going to go to server now. Well, no, we actually want to go to test component. Okay. So what we were doing on last video, where we left off, is we started putting types onto everything, which is useful because in order to do basically our functions for joining room or sending a present snapshot, we need those types to work. Now, one thing I kind of skipped over towards the end because I rushed the ending of last video was I tried to get these types working for present snapshot since I added them to the server types, which we could go. Did I add them here? No, that's actually in yeah, it's in server types, not server. So since I added them here, what that did unfortunately was add them everywhere else. So once it added everywhere else, I came back to this page and nothing was working, as you can see here, because these things need those types and they're not fully set up yet. So one thing we haven't made is members. And I also don't know if we want to emit the present snapshot from here or not. So we're going to really start thinking about that. Where do we want to start emitting stuff from, and where do we want to start sending stuff? So this is the stuff we want to send to the thing. So let's go to docs real quick. And so we want to server adds user socket to room. So we need to take someone into this room here. All right, so let's go ahead and walk this out, like talk it out. So add user to room. Make sure each user is given an ID. What else do we need here? We need increment room members. So we want to increment the room members every time we get it. What else? So add user to main room. Make sure each user is given an ID. Increment room members. Listen for room members that disconnect. Adjust room member count. Remove from members array. Perfect. Okay. So this is what we want at this point. Let's remove all the noise here. Some of this is getting a little too much for me. We'll keep it, but outside of the function. So it's like here, because this is what we were originally wanting. We know that's that. So let's go ahead and save here. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and also we have our types at the top. We want there to be a room members. We also need to create a members array. So we're gonna have all our variables here. So we need a const equals just an empty array. And I'm just guessing around here right now, but I'm thinking we would want to just use a type, and I keep thinking numbers. I keep thinking it's numbers, but it's number. Okay, TypeScript and element access. So do we need to do something like, say it's a number array, and then just make an empty array here? That's what we need to do in Swift usually. Yep. Okay. Perfect. So now, are we able to use members here? So we don't need to do this. What we'll just do is send it members. Yes. Does it need to be? So I thought this was making an array. Would this make it an array? Yes. TypeScript is not callable. Type number has no signatures. Okay. I don't want to mess around with something like this too much, so I'm actually just going to ask AI real quick. Okay. So I had to do a talk with the AI because I was getting really confused. I could not figure out what this argument of type was for, and it was pretty obvious. So let's go back to server types. If we look at the server types here, we can see that we have client to server and server to client. We're getting a type error with user left because I was trying to emit, or I was trying to listen for user left from the client, from the server side. But this can only be used on the client side. So luckily, TypeScript gives an error. Again, TypeScript's been the biggest issue of this project because I'm kind of trying to learn it as I go, which is admittedly not probably the best way to do it. But at the same time, you can see how this would be useful because now this stops someone that doesn't know what they're doing from trying to do stuff backwards. So that being said, I really want to try to get an idea of like what's going on here. So I am going to crutch on AI to walk me through the connection here, adding some functions, adding some types. So what it's recommending is that we add type leave room, disconnect. It is here wanting us to make a map for the room members instead of having it just being a number, and it's wanting me to do a string and then a set of strings. So maybe we're gonna have an ID and then be placing the IDs in here so we know that we don't have duplicates. From there, what are we doing? From there, we're gonna have a couple functions. So function add member, function remove member, function snapshot. So again, this is the disconnect I was having. I don't know why I've been so focused on the socket library or framework, I guess, compared to remembering that we can use functions and do that. And I just could not put those things together. So I'm hoping that I could do this part here and use this for the rest of the parts. Now, I'm kind of annoying and I don't copy and paste code. I find that I've thought through this a lot. I've spent like 4 days on this, and I've thought about this heavily for at least 3 days in trying to get this figured out. So at this point, since I couldn't get it figured out, I'm at least going to type it out, and that helps me. I'm not going to make you guys suffer through that, so I'll be back in a jump cut when I've typed this all out, so we can keep moving forward. And then I haven't checked where this leaves us in terms of how much more we have for part 4. That's where we'll touch base on and see how much more is left after this. Okay, so this has been an interesting journey. I think I've been, recording for 55 minutes, but this is probably going to end up being like my shortest video yet. The main reason is because I did want to get working on this today. I try to put at least an hour or 2 into the project a day. I think I want to take a break here at this point. That being said, we're just going to do a quick review of basically what AI has done for me. I try not to include this stuff with me just sitting and it updating AI. I think it would be boring. I like to educate and I like watching videos that help me learn. The whole point of this channel so far is to see someone's thought process. This is my thought process and how I work through problems. I find that a lot of dev YouTube does not have that. I know it might not be the most exciting thing. I watch a lot of guys who will jump on their computer and type from the moment you start the video till the end of the video, and they make crazy stuff happen, and I love that. I love people that have so much knowledge that can do that. But I think for me in my growth journey, it would have been very useful to see more people that struggle and are trying to figure out these things step by step, so I can be like, oh, I should try that stuff, you know. So at this point here, this project, again, got to keep reminding myself as well, on top of you guys, that this is a demo. So technically I could have probably had AI do the whole demo within 5 minutes and done review of that demo. I just don't feel like that's useful for me. I find that this is the best step once I get completely stuck on a demo project like this, to have it, fill it in, and try to use that in later areas of the project, or even use it in the main project, the whole point of this, right? So let's do a quick review and then we'll end this video. So what did it do? It did quite a bit. We'll start with the server types. So what we did was we added a type for leave reason, and we did left or disconnect with an or. This is a TypeScript thing, very cool. I need to start using that more. I rarely use it because I just don't think about it. And we only have our clients to server and server client set up. These, I don't think we're going to use these throughout the project, but we have them because they are part of the socket.io. And to make sure this is all clear right now, up to this point in part 4, we've really only touched the backend stuff. It's going to be a very minimal UI project, but that will be happening later in the next few videos. Basically, I have it here. We're not going to do that until step 8. So we still got a couple other back-end things, a lot of back-end stuff that we're trying to focus on before we get to the UI, which is very interesting, very exciting. I do like the back-end stuff as well. Now, let's go through here again. Basically, everything's using a payload, and that kind of makes sense. I think I'm going to use that idea moving forward here myself. We are taking a room ID. It's going to be a string. We did change things from being numbers to strings, which is interesting. I think it makes sense. So we have a room ID, a user ID. Members is now going to be a string array instead of a number array, and we're still counting a normal number for the member count. For user joined, another payload with the room ID, user ID, and member count. And we did add the reason here, which is a leave reason type, which is cool to see custom types there. Now, the biggest change came here in server. So let's see here. So we still have our new server here. Room members is now not just a number, it has become a map, which is a string map here with a set. So we're taking a string and a set. So very interesting things happening in these functions, and I'm trying to clock them in because I see some similar stuff to Swift, but some very new stuff that's very JavaScript, TypeScript itself. So if no room member has a room ID, then we're going to go and set the ID and create a new set. Then room members are going to grab .get. I didn't know that this was a thing. This is there's something very similar in Swift. I'm forgetting it right now. Contain. So we have a contains option in Swift, but .get the room ID. We have the thing here. I'm guessing this is an optional where it can either have it or be null. So we're force opening that optional to get that. I think that's what that is. I'm totally guessing there, but that's what it usually is in Swift. And we're adding the socket ID. Okay, and that's because we got it from the string. So add member, add room ID. So ready right away, moving into an idea of functions. I love this because really I would have preferred to just write functions for some of the stuff I was thinking. It wasn't that I was completely stuck It's just maybe I needed to see it. Sometimes you just need to see things, which is why I do this. This is why I do AI projects and why I do demo projects so much, because I find part of that sense of how do you get to those guys who just start typing stuff? They've just seen it so many times, right? They've seen patterns and stuff like that. And luckily we have AI now that can show us some of these really cool patterns a lot easier than if I was sitting here without AI or without the internet, how hard it would have been to figure this stuff out. It would have taken so much longer. So we got remove member, another cool one, which is just a function. So we create set. We're grabbing that room ID again, just like we did before. And then if it's not a set, then we return remove false, and we just basically clear it out. We delete the socket ID, so we're just kind of clearing everything out. If count equals 0, then we're deleting the whole room ID. And then we're going to return removed and count, which is going to be the empty set without that socket ID, or the set without the socket ID. And then the count will be the size that's left after removing that person, or it will delete the whole room if it equals 0. Then we have snapshot. Here we set up the array, and we're going to grab the room members dot get room ID, or we're just going to set up a new set here of that can take strings. We're going to return the room, the user ID, with a self ID, which is interesting because we're basically going to feed the socket ID for the socket, which is very smart, but we still need the room ID. And then we're using members.length to grab that. Perfect. Now let's get to our connection handler. And nice, we can see the whole thing here. So we start out with the room, join room ID as a string or null. Again, another very cool use of the TypeScript stuff. In the cleanup, we can either do lift or disconnect. So this is something that I was struggling with here. So if we just skip here real quick to the disconnecting. So it was like, how do I know if they left or if they got disconnected? Well, basically it's a built-in thing into the sockets. So we can, the leave room, that is us calling a specific thing. So if we do get that emit from the client, then perfect. We can just say they left. But if they get a disconnect, then we just gotta listen for disconnecting, and that's how we know they got disconnected. The browser, the connection just stopped. So that was something I was wondering about. So very cool. And then this is just a normal cleanup function. We'll remove everything from the members array. So if join room ID, join room ID. So this is how we get the room ID. We set that to null. We go and call remove member, and we give it the room ID and socket ID, like I said, which does the stuff that is here. And if not remove, we return. And then here, okay, so this was another thing that I was struggling with. I think this is actually where I stopped for you maybe like 2 minutes ago, but for me an hour ago, because I got stuck trying to like actually call this. So the first confusion was I was trying to call, and I don't know if I went over this already, but I was basically trying to call client types in the server, which is not allowed. And I had been trying to feed it the information. So this makes sense. We are getting that info from the provided stuff up here and sending it as an emit to all the other clients. Here's our guard statements that I wanted the whole time for joining the room. So these make sense as well. And then adding the member as well. Okay, perfect. And then I think we did. So then what did I want to point out here? So to reiterate, I can look at how the add member function, using that stuff within the connection handler, great. I don't think I've fully digested all of this. So I might move on to step 5, and I don't know if I'll record it or not, but I might spend some time really messing with it, because step 5 is annoying, but we have to make it's the presence indicator. So it needs to be able to track X and Y coordinates for a user because our main app does require that. So this is like a practice of that to have that in my head. Um, but I would wish that it was more of this back end stuff here so I could kind of keep building on it. But it's like, it is that, but it's also something completely different. So that will also most likely require its own functions. And I wonder if I'll be able to use this to go off that. But um, in the test component, we did make another function here. Let me see. So I think it's, yeah, present snapshot. I think it edited this one. Yeah, it edited the types here. Oh no, I just added this on user join as well. So this was it, and it's just using these. So it looks like basically we call the function. So if we listen and we get it, we call the function. It's like this payload already has it, so we can use it on this side, which is very interesting. I don't know how those work internally, but that's basically what's going on there. Cool. So this might be a little bit more of a boring one, but again, at least you could see how this stuff is working, some of the ideas where I got stuck, and how using functions in this is becoming more, or how it can be useful. I don't think there was any other changes, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. Thank you for watching, and I'll be on step 5 and 6 here soon, and hopefully this week we can finish this project, this demo up.